So I see some familiar faces and a couple of non-VMT practitioners here. And my name is Molly Sastri, and I'm based outside of Boston. And I have been fortunate enough to be doing this voice movement therapy work now. I'm realizing almost 25 years, which floored me when was adding up the math. Um, so I found the work basically through word of mouth. I was able to find Anne Brownell, who is our VMT mother, who's here in our group here. And I was someone who loved to sing and actually was had a lot of creativity encouraged in my childhood. And there's actually even the story that my mom tells that I was slow to learn how to speak, but it was through learning how to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb that I was able to find words. So music and singing has been very dear to me from a young age, but as often happens to girls around puberty, I really lost a lot of confidence and became very uncomfortable with being myself, discomfort in my own skin, basically, and ended up uh, ended up developing eating disorders that I struggled with for many years. Lots of conflict around taking up space and being seen. So it was in my late teens that I met Anne and did a few sessions with her one-on-one. And I remember feeling afterwards this sense of just being 10 feet tall and loving it, feeling this sense of expansion that I really had not exactly experienced before. And I ended up learning that a training was happening in London. This was in 1998, 1999. And I was able to go and do the training. And it was absolutely incredible. And it really burst my voice wide open. That's the phrase that I always use. And maybe that phrase has a little bit of like violence to it. And I don't mean it in that, but at the same time, it really just expanded things and did so rapidly in all sorts of ways. And I'm sure all of you who are practitioners know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's a little bit of my story. I ended up coming back to the States, and after some time had passed, I was just in my early 20s and didn't think this is something that I could do with others. I felt like I was doing it more for myself as an artist, as a singer and a songwriter. And I did the band thing and the touring thing, which I still do. But now I've incorporated working with clients and individuals and groups. And I just can't get enough of this work. I'm still a student of it, even though it's been more than 2 decades, unbelievably, that I've been familiar with it. So I don't know if the history of VMT has been touched on at all today. It's not been. Okay, so then for our non-VMT practitioners in the group, I'll just say a few words about where VMT comes from. So I trained with Paul Newham, the founder of Voice Movement Therapy, as well as Anne Brownell and Christine Isherwood, who you may have seen earlier as an attendee. And Paul based a lot of his work on the work of a man named Alfred Wolfson, who was a medic in World War I. He was a German Jew, and he experienced World War I trench warfare. And he experienced the soldiers around him being wounded and dying, and a particular instant of feeling the guilt of perhaps leaving someone behind that perhaps he could have thought he could have saved. So after the war, he was not okay, and he was plagued by oral hallucinations. He was continuing to hear the voices of the wounded and the dying around him, what he called the voice in extremis, the extreme voice. And he was not able to find relief from the psychiatric treatments that were available to him. And somehow, following his own intuition and inner wisdom, he ended up exploring giving sound to the voices in his head through his own voice. He began exploring taking the voice from out of his head and putting it out through his voice, through his own voice. And in so doing, in this process, he found relief and aspects of healing from these hallucinations. In addition, he found that he was able to greatly expand the parameters of his voice in multiple ways. So in terms of pitch, from very low to very high, in terms of volume, from very quiet to very loud, in terms of what we might think of as a female voice or a male voice. He began to see it all as one human voice. And he developed exercises and techniques and actually started an experimental singing school, I believe in London, where he taught what he had created and discovered. So Paul Newham used a lot of Wolfson's work in founding voice movement therapy, as well as taking aspects of other expressive therapy modalities, such as dance therapy and drama therapy, play therapy, as well as aspects of authentic movement, active imagination. And what's interesting is that Wolfson had a student named Roy Hart, who you may have heard of. Roy Hart went on to found the Roy Hart Theater in France. And what Roy Hart Theater is known for is this extended voice technique. So Roy Hart took Wolfson's work and brought it deeper into theater, whereas Paul, who didn't work directly with Wolfson, but discovered him after the fact, they weren't living at the same time, Paul brought it more into the therapeutic world. And so also brought in aspects of Jung and Freud and psychotherapeutic principles. So this workshop is on the voice movement journey, which is actually one of the more advanced tools or techniques or whatever we want to call it in VMT. At least that's what I would have thought before the pandemic. Well, I would still say it's advanced, but the reason that I'm doing it now for the second time at a conference, because I did do it last year as well, is that over the pandemic, when I started working with people on Zoom, never even considering that before, because this work is so visceral and it's in the moment, and we want to be able to see and touch if that's allowed, if that's okay. There's a massage and manipulation element to VMT, and smell and taste the emotions in the room, because we all had to adjust, of course, as the whole world did. What I ended up finding in Zoom sessions is that many of the people that I worked with were excited about the journey, about the voice movement journey. And the journey is very, very free. I'll get more into the specifics, but I think an aspect of that possibly is that there's a sense of containment of being in your own space. So the journey can be a little, like, I kind of had the view that it could be a little bit uncontained, without enough proper setting in place of container. And I do think perhaps being in one's own space and being able to really moderate one's involvement through the screen perhaps helps with that. So the voice movement journey essentially is setting some time and space aside for exploring impulses
Mm.
through breath, through movement, through sound, and noticing what might come up, noticing what you feel, noticing your thoughts, and allowing yourself to move with the current of your impulses and your urges. And that might sound very vague, but it's really amazing what often can come up when you just give yourself that space to move and
Mm.
sound. It's something that you can do starting from standing. You can do it from seated. You can do it from lying down. It's really just about tuning in to where you are and then noticing the impulses. And perhaps the impulse is for silence and stillness, and that's okay. But if you stay with it, likely it will change.
Mm.
And likely there will be some river that you can kind of put your paddle into. Um, Images may come up, memories may come up. It's all okay, and we just stay with it and we interact with it through movement and through
Mm.
sound. And again, allowing for what's there. So what I'd like to do um, is to allow us to do that together. And because it might be the first time for a couple of people here, I guess I'll get a consensus, but I think last time we muted our microphones so that each person can
Mm.
really hear themselves and have a little bit of a private journey, but knowing that it's being held by all of us in the group. And I will start us with a little bit of the VMT sphere as just some sort of grounding before we kind of go into the unknown. So why don't everybody mute their mics and find a position where you would like to start doing some moving and sounding. And like I said, that can be anywhere. If you're in bed, you can stay in bed. If you're seated, if you're standing, it's all okay. And once you get into that position, you might want to stretch out for a moment. And if it feels right, you can close your eyes to kind of turn your awareness and attention inwards. And notice your breathing. Relax the jaw. Let each inhale inflate your torso like a balloon. And exhale, deflate the torso. Imagining that the lips are the opening of a tube, and we're going to imagine it goes all the way down the throat, all the way down to the belly. You're breathing in and out through that tube. And imagine yourself right in the center of a sphere as you breathe. And that this is your sphere. This is your space around you. You're right in the center of it. It can be any size, any shape, made out of any substance uh, that you imagine it to be. And as we start to pay attention to impulses to move and sound, see if you can keep some consciousness of that sphere around you. It moves with you, if you may move around the room, and you're right in the center of it, contained by your sphere. And now we will go into some free movement, some free vocalizing for about 20 or so minutes. And I'll ring a bell when it's time for us to come back together. Giving yourself about another minute to come to close. Hmm. So, welcome back from your journeys. And we have a few more minutes. If anyone would like to share any reflections on their experience, the floor is open.
Yeah, I would love to, if that's okay. Thank you for this opportunity. It's very profound for me. What came up for me, and I also have I have an eating disorder as well, and that plays out in my daily life. And I was feeling a bit triggered earlier, but just doing this exercise and kind of pushing myself to do it, what came out was in my sphere was like half fire and half water. And the first like minute was just me kind of yelling. Like this big, really strong voice just came out, kind of angry. And then the words or the song that came out was I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it, and you can't make me. So it's like, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it, and you can make me. And then I kind of went into like this like kung fu mode. And it was like, so back up and get out of my space. So it was really this like this thing for me was really about setting boundaries. And I kind of, the imagery I had was of my mother kind of forcing me to be something that I'm not when I was younger, to be this great mathematician or whatever science person, when all I wanted to do really was sing and dance. Um, and then the song continues, and there's some other words as well, and it kind of ends with, I don't want to do it, I'm not gonna do it anymore. And it was kind of like a more, instead of singing with anger, it was kind of a more softer sound with like more assertiveness and more peace. And then I kind of imagined my adult self picking up my inner child and kind of giving her a hug. And then what happened after that was I kind of went into a butterfly, and I kind of feel like I finally was able to open my wings and be who I'm supposed to be. And that's kind of what the last bit was, of me just kind of fluttering and opening my wings. So that was a bit of a long spiel, but yeah, thank you. That's what my experience was.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
That's
you, and thanks to
wonderful.
everyone else for the space.
Um, just a quick one. I was tapping the whole of my body at one point just to try and wake up the muscles. Quite a lot of tight arm and leg muscles, and so I was just, and then finally getting on the floor and just surrendering to the floor, and sweet chariot coming for to carry me home was kind of like increasingly higher and higher, and just feeling that the how the earth can take the weight of the body. And I got quite a lot of fight or flight still in my arms and in my legs, and so I'm just trying to get free of that. And just to finish, just before you carried it, I was in my legs, and it was like my feet were just, where's the ground? where's the ground? Where's the ground? Where's the ground? And it was like, I was just extending the legs, and the feet were like, okay, where's the ground now? Where's the ground? And I was going, okay, that's a good sign.
Wow.
So
Thanks, Mel. It feels like this is a good way to end the conference, I think,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
was I was going to actually say that just I guess I started my session at 5:30 this morning, so I've been here since then, but it's not that long, not like Anne and Arena. But I've been here for a few hours, and I haven't like had this much focused VMT time for quite a while. So it was just really good. I mean, I just felt so open and so able to access everything. And it was so beautiful to have that space to be able to, I just felt like that tube just being completely like, I felt like there was lots of room, space, a space to just let sound do its thing. So it was a perfect way to end. Thank you. I
Wonderful.
enjoyed it.
I like what you just said about letting sound do its thing. That's kind of been my experience lately too. I had a client who used the word metabolize, that especially the journeying, that there's like this metabolizing of the substance of our psyches, of our lives, that happens without words. I mean, in that realm of not, out of time, out of language. It's hard to put words to, actually, but yeah. Anybody else want to say anything about this workshop, or just, the whole day as we come to a close? We can't hear you, Anne.
It was an extraordinary day. As I say, it's just amazing to see people coming from and doing the same work and many of the same principles, and everybody is absolutely unique. I mean, that's really all I can say. People, not a bunch of cookie cutters. I mean, everybody takes the work and makes it their own. And I think as long as we can continue to keep doing that, that we'll be in very good shape.
Excellent. Well, thank you for those of you in the Zoom room today, and everyone who was in various Zoom rooms earlier. You can find out more about VMT by going to the IAVMT website, which is iavmt.org. And that's the association's main site. And there's information about all the practitioners that are registered all over the world. If those of you who are here, the non-practitioners, are interested in doing more of this work, you can reach out to practitioners that, Anne?
Well, also you can go to VMT USA and read about the training if you're interested in trainings. The whole.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And there's also workshops. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, it's a really good question. I've been feeling very inspired by today, and thank you for everyone who's been here. I'm really interested in doing a training, and I was wondering if are they mostly all in the US?
No, the next one will be in South Africa, actually.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Yeah. And
Wait,
then
is that with Lorena?
that's in that very room, right? Where Lorena is waving.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will say that you can always call Christine Isherwood for more information. The VMT It's vmtusa.com is the official training website. It's kind of out of date at the moment, but it'll give you an idea of what the trainings are like. And as I say, you can also write to Christine. And also we do try very hard to get scholarships. We have a pretty active scholarship program, if that is of interest. And you can read about that on the website as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so
You're
much. Really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
You're in
training
Peru?
for next year. The information for the training for next year should be up at the latest by the end of May.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. I'll keep my eyes out then. Great, thank you.
You're in Peru, Maria?
Yes.
Well, just mentioning it that in mid-May, not that you can do this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. There's a 5-day workshop that myself and Christine are running in Vermont in the US. And perhaps there'll be more of those. The training itself won't be for about another year, I think.
Right.
But you might be able to find a shorter offering before that if you feel like you can't wait for more.
And this is in person, this one in Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
It's
I've got a lot of
5 days?
options.
All right, 5 days.
It's 5 days. Yes, it's May 10th through 14th. It's a Wednesday through Sunday, and everyone stays on the premises. And yeah.
Was Christine the lady who was from Manchester, or is that someone else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Oh,
Christine.
okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Special thanks to Melanie and Lorena, who helped to make this conference possible with loads of logistics. So thank you. And wonderful to see your faces and